Got a little bit of a reading or something.
It was better than I was.
And your parents
I'm
are-
ready.
right?
You have to go.
Oh, no, dear.
All right, hang on. Okay,
And that.
we are live. Jen, you have the recorder going?
I do.
Excellent.
Yep. Good evening and welcome to the Borough of Park Summit Council meeting, May the 3rd, 7 p.m. In attendance, we have Mr. Beston.
Here.
Ms. Lopez. Present. Ms. Simrel. Present. Solicitor Hayes. Present. Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Mayor Kelly.
Here.
Ms. Kehoe.
Here,
Mr. Jenkins.
Here.
Mr. Shields.
Here.
And Chief Yarn.
Here.
We'll stand for a moment of meditation. Mayor then lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
yes.
First item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? I'll motion to approve the agenda. Thank you, Ronnie. Do we have a second?
Oh, second.
Thank you, Frank. On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, favors have it. 7-0. The next is the approval of the minutes.
By the way, we had 4 minutes, 4 sets of minutes, but after I printed everything, Jen completed the minutes from the work session last week. So if you guys, I did email it and it's there. If you want to vote on it tonight, we can add it or we can, it's up to you. So
Okay,
there, I wrote it down for you, Jerry.
right. Okay, that was our May 31st.
Reconvene and work
reconvene to
session.
Do our vote on our trash contract.
Well,
So
we got to start.
can we combine all these together then?
Mary Claire, are you okay
instead
with
of
that?
doing them individually?
Okay.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from March 29th, work session, April 5th, regular council meeting, April 26th, work session, May 3rd, regular council meeting, and May 31st, our reconvened meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Josh. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Sorry, thank you, Kathleen. All in favor? Opposed, favors have it. 7-0. The next item on our agenda is our public comment. We have Mark Spatz here from the CDBG at Hillside Park.
Yeah, if everybody in your packet wants to note after the minutes and before we get to the police report, there is a listing of the CDBG monies that are available. So that you can follow along if you wanted.
This one.
Yeah, that's it. It looks like that.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead now.
Evening, council. My name is Mark Spatz. I'm with Hillside Park. Here this evening to discuss with you potential use of CDBG funds, the borough CDBG funds at the senior center, Hillside Park Community Center. I serve on the park board and co-chairman on the park board, serving on the board with Councilman Mitchell. And he mentioned that the borough was interested in trying to use its remaining CDBG funds for the last 5 years, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, at least a portion thereof, most notably the 2018 and 2019 years at this point. And potentially directing those to the old senior center, the community center, as an eligible source or eligible use of those funds. I did talk to Peggy, so I guess a little background on me. I'm a civil engineer. I work for HRG, a 300-person engineering firm. has also managed the CDBG DR funds for Plymouth Township. And they were doing buyout programs, so I'm very familiar with CDBG funds. That said, I still did give Peggy a call at the county today to discuss and make sure I understand some of the details. And nobody understands it better than Peggy, so I have a very good working knowledge of it, but still obviously want to call and make sure everything's copacetic with Peggy and everything. So eligibility. She mentioned around $11,000 and change from the 2018 funding year, and 2019 was around 83,000 and change for that year. So that's what she mentioned at the time. And if that agrees or disagrees or is close enough for what you guys have for records, but that's what she mentioned just on a phone conversation. So it wasn't official or anything. So those are the two primary years I think we were discussing so far, but just for a note, the 2020 was 85K pending yet. 2021 is 86K, and she did mention 2022 was 101. I don't know. if I have that
101,
correct.
no, we were told 87, so.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that it was, I mean, she might have been adding a couple things there, maybe she mentioned the one. I don't know where the one, so, if you add 18 to 19, that's good. I guess from the park board standpoint, those, funds like that, for directing to the senior center, or the Hillside Park Community Center, would really help a lot. Right now, first and foremost, a project that could be done immediately, and that 2018 funds need to be expended by the end of December this year. So there's not, I know it's a little bit of 6 months away, almost 6 months away, but in municipal project time for getting the approvals by CDBG and doing a design and going out to public bid and getting the bids back and checking them, make sure that contracts are paid by CDBG, so on and so forth. Submittals, the months burn away. One of the main projects we could really use at the community center right now is the parking lot is kind of falling apart. We have a plan at the park. We're recognized that that's has occurred, and we have some cost estimates for that, but we really don't have a funding mechanism for it, right? So we would initially, that's our thought is, at least my thought, and I've communicated to a couple board members. I don't know whether we thought as a board as a whole yet, but to use those funds, and we can do that project immediately. It's a fairly easy project compared to, other projects.
What's your estimate for that?
I think we're going to be, I would say between 50 and 60,000, depending on. So we'd have to look to see if there's, I know one board member has talked about, instead of just repaving what's there, is there any enhancements it means? I know at the center right now, the senior programs will fill up the entire parking lot and the stretch along. So they would love to get some more spaces there. Do we add a couple of spaces here and there, things like that, that could, bump that cost up. So we would step back and look at that from the ground level. So I guess this evening, I just wanted to touch base on this. We can, the park board can start to, move things along with, firming up an estimate, coming together with a design, and ultimately get that going out for public bid, so on and so forth. But we just want to make sure, I don't know if where this is at a council level, just to make sure we don't go through these motions and then council changes his mind. It's a lot of waste of time and effort. I would not want to. Is there anything I'm missing, Mr. Mitchell?
I mean, I would just add, we talked about this a meeting or two ago, that, the reason we have expiring money from 2018 and then all these unused funds from 2019, 20, 21, 22, and we'll be getting more for 2023, is because we can't find projects to spend them on.
That qualify.
There's a reason why when the senior center was 100% owned by Parks on the Borough, I say 100% because we still own it. We own a portion of it because we own the park. We spent all of our money down there because there are eligible projects there, and there still are. So while this is a project that is sorely needed and that can help us spend these dollars that we have expiring, I would like us to really think about how can we more regularly spend large sums of this money at the community center where, our demographics haven't changed. We still have, which is why we're eligible for CDBG funding. we still have a high number of senior citizens in our community that use that center. Our residents are still down there. We should continue to support them and expand what the center is able to do. You know, make sure that it's a good building for them to go to. So this is what I hope is just the start. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't and can't look for other opportunities to spend money on other things. But, you know, we get between $80,000 and $90,000 a year. Those are big ticket capital projects, which is why we struggle to spend the dollars, and those projects exist at the community center.
I would like to reinforce what Mark said. In municipal time, that's 6 months we have to spend this 2018 money. We're already too late for it. If we don't come up with a plan today, there's not going to be enough time, because what happens is the county has to go to the state and get it approved. Then they have to come up with, we have to hire, the joint rec board would hire a civil engineer to do the bid specs. Then the county would have to advertise the bid, make it available, give it an adequate period of time, have their appropriate pre-bid conferences, then award it. And then there's still a period of time while all of the bonds are brought in and contracts are signed before the construction can start. And this money needs to be spent by the end of the year.
And paving needs to be done before it gets cold out, so.
Bingo.
that's a further.
So I would reinforce that I don't think we have enough time to come up with an alternative to spend this kind of money this year.
So this is just the first step, though. I mean, there's.
Right. I mean, right, if we commit 2018's money and even a little, you know, what they need for this, we still have more than adequate, we still have more than 300,000 available to us to spend, but we're not going to lose anything that we really stand a risk of losing if we don't have something.
So do you make a resolution, or I mean, is this like just?
We could just do this by motion, can we not?
I think we can, because the money's already been allotted,
Right,
and this falls within the purpose that.
You
is
you need to get
designated
approval.
for.
for
the
the
county
project,
will
or-
provide a resolution when they need it. They'll provide us what we need to vote on. But I don't think, you know, there's no sense starting this if we're not going to be intent on doing it.
Right, we have to let them know we're absolutely in favor of this project and for them to.
Yeah, and I would need to know the amount of funds. So I was hopeful to get the blessing for the allocation and use of 2018 and 2019, just to make it clean.
Sure.
But if it's a portion thereof, if it's not all of 29, I would assume it's gonna be all 11,000. But it's not
It's
all
actually
20.
about 40 something. She only gave you one of 3
Right, we have about
line items.
43 from 2018.
Oh, okay.
So
I just need a target, like 80, 90,000 as a,
Sure.
just so we know what we're doing, because people will say, well, it's let's add spaces here and there. It's like, well, it can get to the spot where it's like, well, we can't do anymore because we only have 60,000 or 80,000 or some number. I need some number. And just to make sure it's super clear, because sometimes I wonder, and I want to make sure that nobody ever thinks this. I volunteer on the park board. I volunteer my professional services. The park board's not hiring me. I do stuff as a volunteer. If we hire anybody, it's gonna be negative. So there's no like, hey, you're in this street. No, I don't cross, I truly volunteer because I want to volunteer. So there's none of that.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just, sometimes I get in these things, they're like, oh, you want this because you're gonna get it. Like, no,
No.
I just have one question concerning this money, the CDBG money that we seem to be unable to spend. Is there any way that any of this money can be funded towards the fire company? We just had them in here last week and they were crying about how bad things are financially. I have no major objection in giving some to the joint rec board. However, can any of this be used towards the fire company for any of their financial issues that they might have? It may be,
it has to be very specific.
Okay.
So if there is life-saving devices or equipment that you need that is specifically targeted at the handicapped or the seniors,
Mhm.
what it is they need to know that the majority of the users are going to meet the criteria. So it's low income, senior citizens, or the handicapped. So can we buy a fire truck with it? No.
Mhm.
The state would never allow that. If there was the specially adapted breathing devices, you know, for people that have special disabilities or something, that would, I think, be a good time.
But
We brought this right-
overall, not
No.
generally.
But
Not
I
generally,
think
you have-
whether it's that or something else,
Mhm.
you know, really, at the end of the day, I think we're gonna make a motion to say, and I'll make the motion to say, you know, that we support up to X number of dollars for a paving project at the community center.
Right.
That leaves us with still close to $300,000 that we, over the next several years, really have to figure out how to spend.
And honestly,
We can
David,
explore other ways to do that.
if the fire company wanted to look into it, understanding the criteria, I'm sure council would be thrilled to entertain something. How
Well,
about we
that's-
we're gonna be talking even more about it later on in the
That's
meeting.
the only thing that I was questioning was
Yeah.
that, well, I didn't realize that we hadn't spent all this money previously.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I'm sure 22 and 21. However, back as far as 2018, like, that's a long time to be sitting here on the money that we haven't really found a purpose for.
Because they're so limited. And
Yeah, well, that's what it is. Your hands are tied pretty much with
It's hard to
with
spend
what they're going. That's why I didn't know if, and Virginia probably knows the ins and outs of it, you know, and Jennifer more than anybody here.
Mhm.
That's why I didn't know if there was anything in there that said it could be used for the community towards the fire company.
Like I said, it's got to be very specific, but
Okay.
that being said, I think if the fire company does need to invest in something that would meet the criteria, I think it would be a great idea to present it to council and give them the opportunity
Okay.
to review it.
All right.
And also, I think Virginia, like Mark got in touch with Peggy
Mhm.
in the county. I think if the financial advisor at the fire company got in touch with Peggy and let them spell out, you know, what
Even
they
that, I
would
can-
or not qualified
I could
for.
send the information, the criteria for the programs. I know Mark talked to Peggy because Mark knows Peggy, but I would say that it'd be easier for the fire company to know what the criteria is, have a proposed idea, and then call Peggy and say, do you think this would
Yeah.
fly?
Good play.
Rather than just saying, hey, Peggy, we want
Sure.
your money, how
Yeah.
can we do this? And
Okay.
putting it on her. But yeah, so
All right. I will funnel that back to the fire company. Yeah.
great,
You know,
So who makes the final decision on if the private?
the state.
The state.
The state, right. We decide if we're gonna allocate it to something, and if we do, then the state will review the project. If, for example, when we did sewer lines on Nickel Street, the state, the county, as representatives of the state, actually did surveys of the property owners to determine their income levels, to see if they qualified. Based on the results of that survey, the state then approved the project because it did meet the criteria.
Mhm.
On the other hand, we decided to use some money for sidewalks on North State Street. The state, or the county, as representative of the state, did a survey and said, nope, they don't.
It's too high.
Too high of income, we can't spend it there. So we can make whatever decision we want, they'll make final approval.
And how quickly would they come back with the decision?
You know, the state.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
Near-
saying the 6 months is
Six-
pushing.
that's- I think it'd be- But for 6 months, we would know, or.
Yeah, oh, I think we'll know. We've
90 days.
already found out that something like this is okay, theoretically. The state has, on theory, said they would approve this.
Mm.
So the specs, they're gonna need the specs and then they'll, have
Yeah,
to send
so-
approved, but
So depending how
it's
this,
already halfway there.
yeah, so talking with Peggy, depending how this goes tonight, I would call her tomorrow. And say, hey, what I already talked with you about, you know, went that way. At the council meeting, what do you need next? And I think she's gonna need a project description and a cost estimate, so I would generate that.
And how much money do you think of the CDBG grant money do you need for the parking lot, you think?
I would like to see, like 80,000-90,000, I think, in allocation, maybe
Oh,
our
wow.
estimates less than that. If payment costs are, I have to Pavement costs are not like you right now, they are not oh, let's use the numbers from 6 months ago. It's like, what did we get last couple of
Very
weeks?
volatile.
Because of their-
Right.
All over.
How much was that number you said?
80, 90.
If they don't spend all of that, it comes back to us.
Yeah, it's not, and just to
So
be
it'd be
clear,
up to 80 or 90,000.
yeah,
Correct.
I'll make a motion that we allocate up to $90,000 of our CDBG.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
So that it doesn't put you in the middle? Let me make the motion.
Well, I don't think there's a
And there won't be
conflict of me
conflict
being
of
on
interest.
the board. I don't think there actually is a conflict, but it doesn't matter to me. If you want to make it, go ahead.
I'll make the motion to what?
To 90,000?
Sure.
I would
Okay.
actually just want to have like a caveat there. It would be contingent upon state approval.
course.
And if there's not approval within 90 days, it'd be null and void.
Okay, caveat 90
Just
days
because if
approval.
you're unfortunately for whatever reason doesn't work out.
yeah, we don't do what we need to do.
Add that
Over
to
90,000.
That's,
Add that to
yep.
Okay.
So Josh, are you second?
Dave made the motion.
Okay, and Ronnie just seconded it. That's what I was looking for.
And so this will be for 2018 and 2019?
Some,
2018 and up, and some of 2019 up to a maximum $90,000 with the caveat that the state approves the project within 90 days.
Do you
If I'm
think,
reading.
Mark, you may need more than the 90,000 if the numbers are higher? I
You
wouldn't
can
wanna
always come
see you
back.
short on it.
We can always come back. I
Okay.
would say we can always come back to council and see where things are at
Okay.
that point.
Mhm.
It seems, I just, the point of this evening mainly was for me to know, like, should I call Peggy tomorrow? You know?
Please call. Please call.
Yeah, if, you know,
Yeah.
council was like, man.
And just so I understand, you did describe this amount would tell you where to stop, that like if there were repairs or thoughts or new ideas.
Yeah,
You
we
would
can,
just go with this amount and then stop there, is that?
correct,
how you
yeah, and it would be,
describe-
yeah, and in you asked another question briefly
And
when
then
there
you
was,
think
it,
paving or paving repair, plus repair.
Kind of both, so some of the sections needs full depth rehabilitation, some of the sections just need upgrade. So we come up with it.
That's all I was curious about, thank you.
You had mentioned.
And then what about the money from 2020, 2021, and 2022? Is that not expiring?
No, each year you have 5 years. So
Okay.
2018 is going to expire by the end of this year, 2019 by the end of next year. So we can go ahead and use some of 2019, but that's not as urgent. That first 43,000 will
It's really
lose if it's not spent.
Yeah.
So,
Got it.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Just to clarify, it's not, unless I'm mistaken, so take this with a grain of salt. It wouldn't be like you're giving the money to the AAJRB or anything of that nature.
Right.
It's really the borough's project.
Exactly.
It's the borough is using its CDBG funds allocation to pave its property, which is the
Exactly.
community center.
and the joint rec board is paying for the engineering
We'll
to
be paying for
support
the
that.
engineering
So
and
there's no
we'll
money out of
facilitate.
our pocket.
Yeah, we'll facilitate. What I'll do from my volunteer side is I'll be doing the easy, do a sketch, do some cost estimates. Those are all very easy. When we get to like things that need to be sealed, I'll probably lean on Bob Nagley, your engineer, to do that part, just because of this, the sealing and I have my professional liability insurance is through HRG. They don't like when I seal things that we're not getting any money for.
Yeah.
So I can do sketches and all that kind of stuff. When it comes to sealing projects without the bid, it's best to.
I'd like to make one more point, and sort of suggestion request, and that is, so 2019's money, there's still a large portion of that will be
Right.
expiring. And
Yeah,
given the amount of time it takes to scope these projects out, get them approved,
right.
I would like Mark for you, and just so everybody knows, you know, Mark is very heavily involved with the community center. I really am not. We have committees on the JRB that do different things. I'm not involved in the community center so much as Mark is. That's where any funds we spend at the park, by and large, are gonna end up there. So I would like really for the park to come back to us with what would be the next project that we could potentially support. Doesn't mean that we have to,
Right.
but you know, if it's a roof, for example, that's a big project, that's gonna have to be bid out. Whatever that is, whether it's the park, whether the fire company is able to find an eligible project, we should really be approving that by the end of this calendar year.
Yep.
So that can all be going on next year. So we
So-
can't say, okay, we're done, see you next June here. we need to have the next projects to use our 2019 and our 2020 money lined up over the next several months. So I would run with this one, but then also come back with what is the next one that, you know, we can potentially consider supporting.
Yeah, and I was talking, so the county runs the program at the center. That's the county, the same people that ran before, the county, the AAA, the area on aging
Right.
from the county, which, so they run it, they are the leasing. They hired United Methodist to facilitate the programs. Since they have done that, the attendance has, I would say, doubled or tripled. And COVID, it went way down. But they've really done a great job and it's really packed. So the facility, there's could be improvements to the facilities. What I was contemplating on, because I talked to United a little bit ago, is in the true spirit of it to basically ask United to take a survey from the seniors that go there to say, what do you guys need? Like, what could really be useful? And I know the answer is gonna be more space within the center. They fill it up. They don't have enough compartments and rooms to do all their different activities, because you have painting over here and yoga over here, and people are playing pool over here and checkers over or whatever. You know, there's a bunch of stuff happening all at one time, and they really run out of space. But for anything like that, I mean, that's not a $20,000 project. So that's where we would.
One other thing I should point out on that topic, I think everybody here should know that the county is actually giving grant money to the park to support a number of improvements at the center. There was some sidewalk work that we did last year. What did they give us, $20,000 or something?
Yeah,
The county has also directly supported the center and the programming that they run there. And I think if we were to do something big, I think I'm guessing that as a board, we would be asking the county to support some portion of that and perhaps come here to ask for some level of support with CDBG money. But they have supported, and I think we would continue to ask them to support in the future as well.
Yeah, the county has been pretty generous to the center. I think a total of $30,000 for necessary repairs immediately and then improvements to like the sidewalk and whatnot. A lot of that came with COVID because the programs retracted because nobody could go anywhere, but they still had budget funds for that year. So they pushed them out to the facilities to use those funds, which makes a lot of sense.
And just a quick question, is the senior center in Clark Summit?
No, it's right outside the.
But it is our property. It is the Borough of Clark Summit's.
I know residents of Clark Summit use it, but that's not gonna be an issue. Though, you
No,
think?
no, you guys own it.
Yeah.
You're on the deed. So the park's 100 acres, the 5 municipalities on the deed. One of them is Clark, yeah, it's your property. It's your building. It's
And the
just-
county the state has already, like I said, in theory, approved this.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
the
they
park-
know that information.
the park board, you guys appoint 3 people to the park board. We simply just operate, facilitate operation of the park. That's it. We don't own it. The municipalities own it. You're on. All right, thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Next item on our agenda is the news report.
On the big point there, or we finished our quicker ticket grant, and I anticipate getting more grant money. I think, the end of this month, I'll know more. We have a summer grant, I think we should qualify for it. I did tell the these up to tell me that we can do some UI loan proposals. For this summer too as well, so I, all grant. Go to DA's office. That's really all I have to. Yeah, we had a, sometime last month, everybody was, one of our officers had a baby and was off for a while. I don't know if we got pretty sick. He's back to work. We get, pretty, big in the doctor for a couple weeks. We'll back last week, I go back to Monday.
What was that, Chris?
One of the officers, Dr. Freeman, he was off for a couple of weeks. He had a really bad infection. That,
Okay.
Had him right down. He had to go get antibiotics and IVs not done. But back to So we're kind of short staffed when some. When one having a baby and this. We pulled together. and worked out.
Had a happy ending for you.
I don't know if there's anything else to report, there's nothing new on the other matter. So I think there's no hearings until the hearing, I think, for the PFA. For PFA. hearing.
Yeah, nothing else that we want.
Go, Brian was getting. Text me, and then more. Nothing else.
Does anybody have any questions for our chief? Or our mayor?
Ready to go.
We're running a tight ship. Dismissed.
Oh,
Good job at Memorial Day.
Oh, yeah, wasn't that nice?
Yeah.
That was nice, just a little story behind the scene is that, I offered it to, let, Chief Garrity lead the parade with his last shift on duty. In a uniform, and I said, I'll take your spot, because he always, for years and years, he always,
Right.
he always came in to work with me, because he liked it, he always liked one of his things, he always like, listen, and he said, no, that's your spot. I said, no, I want that to be you. And he
Yeah.
said, well, I'll think about it. Then a couple of days before the parade, so I'm not gonna do what unless you do one, unless you do one way. We do it together. 'Cause I don't know if I can do this, and then all the way through, you kept getting more, Brian, I had to keep him. We're going over to be okay over there, though. So it was pretty, I thought it was a pretty good gesture.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? That was the thing, you always like that parade, like just. years and years.
Oh, my God, yeah.
You can see how he was, you saw how he was emotional. You got,
Exactly,
if
yeah.
you're around by the Butler Sunoco there, he was like, right, tearing up. I said, "Mother, why are you driving?"
I also mentioned to the chief too that the department got positive comments from the fellows that were given the presentation the other day here regarding the emergency management stuff.
Oh, okay.
The fire department. was
Oh,
saying,
yeah.
Yes. The EMT said that you guys
Yes.
are on the scene before they are.
Yeah, we were working, I know they were having some struggle, so, people pre-COVID, we weren't really going to be, during COVID, we weren't going to ambulance calls unless there were something we could make a difference in, because we were afraid of it. But no, kind of switched back, like I said. All right.
All right, then. Thank you, chief.
Take care, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, chief.
Colonel Clink.
I did talk to the insurance carrier about that question. After they said we called you.
I'm sorry, what?
The insurance carrier called today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just had a question about how long we keep our videos from the body cams.
Well, that was a policy, our policy was up to date. They were kind of impressed with electrical.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were actually, this is we're up for renewal for our insurance and they wanted some information before they gave any kind of quotes, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, no bids or quotes, everything there?
Nope.
Okay. For treasury report. With a motion to pay the bills.
We need to approve the treasurer's report, so I'll make a motion that we approve the treasurer's report.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ronnie. On the question. All in favor? All opposed? Favors have it 7-0. Under old business.
Nope, Jerry, back
Now
up.
we-
That was just the treasurer's report. Now we have to pay the bills.
Do we have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Thank you, Kathleen. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ronnie. On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes, 7-0. Thank you. The next is our sewer report for April and May.
No, I didn't know if anybody had any questions. We're going through the shut off now. We haven't, usually when the person who does the shut off
usually before they call me and make sure that the payment wasn't made, which I think is great. Because anybody could make a payment anytime, so. That's it, so we're just waiting, I haven't gotten a call yet from the water company, so it's pending their shut offs.
Okay.
They have been notified though.
Yeah, so there's six accounts that. I don't get it.
Oh, really? 6?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
really
not too
not
bad
bad.
considering.
six that could be shut off, that's.
Yeah.
That's getting a lot better.
Oh. Oh, okay, it's,
That's
when
good.
it comes down to it, I don't know, they seem to, when the water company posts something on there, they seem to run to the.
Yeah.
to us, yeah.
So 6, that's relatively low.
It's actually kind of high.
Okay.
Six,
Yeah.
six,
Yeah.
it's so, we'll put it that
I
way.
was looking at the addresses and there's gotta be, some of them have to be vacant. And that's probably why. A lot of times when people leave their house, like leave the homes and go into foreclosure,
Mhm.
they just stop paying the bills. We're
Right.
still billing, even though they're not living there.
Right.
And they're not gonna pay, so they don't care if we shut off
Right.
their water.
Makes no difference.
And it's not until the foreclosure company takes over that they'll start,
Absorbing that.
yeah, right?
And then
So-
it's a $300 cost from our end. That the homeowner or whoever owns it next is that they have to take care of to get it turned back on.
Yeah.
It is, the penalty goes no matter what, so.
Right.
Well, there's a lien on the property until that happens, correct?
No, it's
No.
not a lien.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just, it's just a $300 fee that we charge.
If
to
we
put it
get
back
to
on.
the shut off and there's still, like, we find out the house is vacant, nobody's gonna come in, running in and making a last minute payment, then we'll start filing liens.
Oh, okay.
But once we file a lien, we start back their delinquent balance at zero.
Mhm.
And we don't want to do that if there's any chance that we're going to get the money, because
Right.
otherwise, once you put it in a lien, you're not going to get it until there's a sale.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Jen, I was looking at this report here, the code officer zoning report. I
Yes.
guess it seems like they have a lot of letters written to residents. Are those recent or are they all for the entire year or?
oh, no, this is today. I drove around today. But there's two things. This on the backside is all the permits that we started with from the beginning of the year. I've been in and out of here and it's been a little crazy just with things that have been happening. So I just wanted to give everybody a list of the building and zoning, thank you. The permits that went out, so that was that, but, these are a lot are repeats that we've seen.
Even I remember some of the names.
Yeah,
Yeah, they look familiar.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
So,
repeat offenders and it's probably a little high now because we're going into the season where lawn maintenance now
Right.
becomes an additional issue and people are moving outside, so it's more
Yeah.
obvious.
but we do 10 days to fix it. And then after that, I would start, well, it depends what it is. The idea you're, send them a letter that's gonna tell them we're gonna have to take them to the magistrate. Or it would be a quality of life, a charge that we would 25, 50, $100. So it depends, but we start at 25 and we just follow that. For quality of life, we have that fee that goes along with it. For something like, like Art Wells, with that gas station, that's gonna be like a nuisance letter. And if he doesn't address it and fix it, then we start to get to the magistrate. So there's different ways that I have to go with people.
So we have a quality of life ordinance. So you give them like 10 days notice to remedy this and then you take them to the magistrate or?
No, this is quality of life is handled here by tickets.
Okay.
Right, they're fine.
Now, if they don't pay the fine, that will go to the magistrate. And then, you know what I mean? So it could end up going there, but
But the quality of life doesn't cover the nuisance,
Nuisance, right.
the information that she is using to, with Art Wells comes from a different ordinance. So that, in that ordinance, she'd have to file with the magistrate if he doesn't do this.
They're two completely different, but you can
Okay.
see I wrote
So
on
the
your.
quality of life is like grass and stuff like that.
Right.
Yes,
Because the nuisance is more like the
yes,
stuff like people leaving tires out of property.
yes, yes, yes. Yes, well, this with the Art Wells, I mean, there's a bunch of the windows that are just, they're broken into, it's just, there's nothing there, and
Yeah.
yikes.
Do you
Yeah.
find the ordinance to be effective in order to get people to change and,
It's up to people, if somebody, that's probably a good example of who I'm talking about, there's somebody who they just don't get it, they just don't see what we see, they don't care to fix it, whatever their reason is, it happens, and then all they get is fined, that's the problem.
Yeah.
You don't have to fix the problem, but you'd have to pay the fine, but if you don't, nobody can take somebody's hand and say, go cut your grass.
And I guess the district justice generally just does like a 1-day fine. They don't do that whole, I mean, I can.
They rarely make it to the fine. If we go to the magistrate,
Yeah.
he'll start all over again with the,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna give you 2 weeks to get this corrected.
Generally, he does, yeah.
And it's very rare that we actually get to the point of a fine, even with the magistrate. But just to go back on what something else that you asked, out of the 13 names here, I'd have to say 8 or 9 of them are repeat offenders. So does the ordinance work? Not really. You know, there's just people that are abusers, and the only thing it does is give us a tool to just keep nagging them.
Is there a limit to how much fine we can have?
No,
When's
So we
the
could-
last time we revisited those fines on that topic? Have they been the same for 15 years?
This quality of life is just from, Kevin just did it, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So it's relatively new.
Yeah. So if the fines aren't.
Quality of life
good,
is
then we
that's
need
the
to
grass,
back
right?
them
Right.
up
Would be
to
one.
$500,000 and say, hey, you get a,
Yeah.
get a bill for $500.
Yeah, right
Fill up
now,
your eyes.
right now, the fine is $25 for the first offense, $50 for the second offense, and then $100 for each offense after that. And each day can theoretically be considered a separate offense.
Right.
But if they don't pay it, when we get to the magistrate will settle.
There's a familiar name here in how things can get out of control. She sued the borough,
Oh, yes,
and Judge Judy over here did an outstanding job.
yeah, that was a few years
Yeah,
ago.
that's 2 years ago.
Which one is that, Frank?
411 Powell. And I was in the
Oh, yeah.
courtroom, and what really made me mad is after how many months and months of dealing with this.
Yes, yeah.
It went in front of Judge Munley,
Mhm.
and he said, I'm not gonna give the state any money, so he slapped her on the hand.
Oh, okay.
Who was that name, Frank?
Yeah.
Oh, Kathy Roth.
She just.
And she's
Yeah.
gonna challenge us, we've already been through this, she's gonna say, oh, that's not weeds, that's a garden.
Yeah.
And you know what? Whenever I take pictures, I only will go after somebody if I know if I bring it in front of the magistrate that he's gonna agree. Because, you could be picky about certain things or whatever, but if something is so small, so mild of an offense, I don't go after them. But the ones that you do, these are, oh dear Lord, they have to fix it, so,
There is a mattress over at a house
yeah.
on,
I have
Center
a
Street.
mattress, yeah, I have it on here.
is that one on there?
It's on here.
Yeah,
I saw it when I was driving by.
302 Center.
Yeah.
Is it
Seltzer. Yep,
Seltzer owns that?
Stelzer, 302 Center, yeah.
Oh, Seltzer, not Seltzer.
Stelzer.
Oh, I'm thinking of,
Stelzer.
I'm thinking of Seltzer Monument,
Yeah,
okay.
no.
Okay,
All right.
yeah, I was
Oh,
driving.
yeah.
Yeah,
by,
that's,
I saw that.
that's the one.
It needs to be covered and
Yeah.
then they need to call JP Mascaro to
Yeah,
tell them they have it. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's,
Right.
but it has to be covered in plastic.
has to be covered in place.
Yes.
So that's what
Yeah.
what did I even put in?
Good.
Where am I? Yeah, mattress, out for garbage,
Yeah.
not covered in plastic, needs to be sending a letter to explain what they need to do.
So all these letters of warning,
Yes, they're all letters that say you
how
gotta get
long
on
before it
it.
goes to the magistrate if they take no action? Back
Well,
to
we
what
do the
Bob-
10 days. I give them a notice of violation it's a different letter. It's a little more formal.
Mhm.
That's saying, you need to correct this, usually another 10 days.
or you're gonna go to the magistrate.
Do these go regular mail or do they go certified mail?
Or regular mail.
Regular mail, okay.
And then if I don't hear from them after that, then I write out a citation and it goes to the magistrate and then they schedule the hearing.
And Jen's talking about like the nuisance ordinance. When we're talking about quality of life, they've got a 10-day warning if she goes out there and it's still there, she can write a ticket.
Yeah, that's the $25 ticket that they would get and then, yeah. So it is different. It's two separate ordinances, two ways, which is fine. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just that.
I agree with you, Josh. I think maybe we should revisit
A $25 ticket is
nothing.
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 And
We
it's
literally-
different Municipalities, but in the city of Scranton,
Yeah.
we did increase it significantly and
Yeah.
we did see an increase in response.
We
Ah.
do have a resident or a property owner that pays a ticket and
Absolutely.
doesn't remedy the situation, then
Absolutely.
writes another ticket, he pays it, and
Absolutely.
it just, once he pays it, it's done.
Right.
You can't go to the magistrate and say, hey, you know,
Right.
he's still not remedied,
Yeah.
then it's a new occurrence.
They don't fix it.
But yes, so there are people that will just continue paying the fine and move on. you
Yeah, but if
know?
we bump it
Which
up to
blows my mind.
$500 or $1,000.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That might be a
It needs
little
to
much.
kind of- Yeah, let's say-
Put them all
Somewhere in
250 and 500. Start out there.
I agree.
Get them to do something. We don't want them to pay the fine. We want them to clean up the. property.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why we write the letters and we want.
Tomorrow I'll email council the specific wording of the nuisance ordinance, including the fines. And I'll also include Mary Claire, and maybe Mary Claire can look out and find out what other communities are using that are effective, like Scranton.
Mm.
And then we can talk about it at our work session. I'll add it to the agenda.
Now, I think we're talking more about the quality of life, the 2550, as opposed to the nuisance. You just.
Right, because the nuisance, the magistrate determines the fine, not us
Right,
anyway.
Right.
I think unless I misunderstood you, I thought you said the nuisance, you would send it to them and see if they want to change the fines. It's quality of life.
That's what, I
Okay.
probably did say
Okay,
nuisance,
okay,
and if I did, I apologize. Quality of life ordinance will come to you.
Quality of life is where you have the amounts that are pretty low.
With the nuisance, so I mean, do you have any vacant properties that you think are a danger to the community or anything like that?
Miles Foundry.
Right, I drove by today, there's a mild area where the window's broken. I mean,
Oh, but they did, otherwise they've got it cleaned up. They've
no,
got
I mean, the
windows
windows are pretty, pretty much there. Or if not, they have something to board it up.
They
in.
do, that's
They
okay.
do, they do, they
What
do.
about the gas station? There's a lot of kids that.
That's on
kids
there.
that walk out.
That's
Oh,
on there.
But
absolutely,
is
that's
that
in
a
the
repeat
nuisance.
is what I meant, like the repeat.
It hasn't gotten this bad until
That's new.
recently.
No, I haven't ever fined him.
Yeah,
And for the
no,
gas station.
not for the gas station.
Okay.
No, other ones, yes, but
Right.
that was years ago.
But
The
Uh,
gas station, the newer. okay.
It is, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
windows are just,
Yeah, because I always see young
I
kids
do too.
walking.
oh, I wouldn't doubt that for a second.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to readdress that one as well. Send that to you guys.
Put some teeth into that to get.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
I
yeah.
think that's a good idea. I think it's,
We could blame it on COVID like everybody else does.
yeah.
Put it out.
But also, like on the redneck.
Do it all at once.
And coordinating the two together might be easier
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I could see that. I could see bumping up those fines. It might be worth it.
The Lednick property when,
Which one?
Oh, Jen, you don't know this one. This is before your time.
okay, that was rodents in it and so on.
Yeah.
That was a real issue.
There was a house
It
at
had
the
to come down.
very end of Knapp Road at State Street.
Yes.
That is now an empty lot, but there was an
Oh,
empty
wait,
house
sign
there. And ultimately, we condemned it and they tore it down. And the same people still own the property as far as I know,
Right.
which is the heirs of the family that died.
Right,
They live in Massachusetts. They
Ah.
pay their property taxes.
right.
And they paid to have the house torn down and leveled and everything. I don't understand some people, but
But could that be the same issue with the Miles property if, or maybe Art Wells's if that,
if they don't address the nuisance, we can move on to
Yeah.
condemnation. But the thing is that, like Jen said,
exactly.
our Miles has covered the windows. And it might not be pretty, but that
Right.
meets our ordinance. You can't
Right.
say that
Right.
creatures can get in there if the windows are covered over.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
So I think what we decided is we may consider increasing our fines to add some teeth
Yeah,
to these.
I'm gonna
We'll
let you guys
circulate.
review the ordinance. We'll get recommendations from Mary Claire and we'll pick up the discussion at our work session and
Just
see.
a question, it's not the right time of year for this, but is, when people don't remove the snow from their sidewalks, does that fall within the same quality of life?
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
quality of life.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know what, that's the thing, it gives them days to do it. It gives you 10 days to fix it, so it's like, it's one of those things, you know, it's tough.
Mhm.
But maybe Mary Claire, you could check with other boroughs to see what
I'll be happy to give.
versus the
comparable.
city, because the city's pretty large.
Yeah, that's a great different demographic wise, but
Yeah.
yeah, we could do a comparison with the other boroughs and
Great.
see.
Good.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Here's the report, Jen. Thank you.
Oh, sure, my pleasure.
All right, the next one, well, we already covered the.
We did. Oh, no, we still have, and I apologize, the first time homeowner, and I didn't put a copy in the packet, but we talked about this last week.
Right.
Peggy Picotti was asking if we would if we want to consider using, allocating some of our funds to that as well. And that is offering, it's using some of the CDBG money for financial assistance to first-time homeowners in the community. Meeting certain criteria, obviously, and I think it's to help, bring new young people into the community.
I was curious how that actually works, in
Yeah,
like,
I was
in what
too.
amount would we allocate that? What does a typical, is it a percentage of the purchase price? How does that, how much money does somebody become eligible for? from that kind of
What are the
program?
logistics we would be looking at? Or would
Then
they
that's
have
the
to be
question I will be
in-house?
happy to ask. I didn't know what to ask. so-
If we said we would support X number of dollars to that program, how far does that money go? How
Right.
many homes, how many homeowners does that
Well,
impact?
We've got to recognize the fact that it's somebody's buying into our community. And they're still, their CDBG is meant for like low income. So this is
Right.
going to be assisting low income people to move into our community. I don't know how many people are going to be able to
Is that even
to
realistic?
get a mortgage for the
That's-
house in our community.
Prices.
So
Still for it.
we can say, it's just like right now that money is allocated, I forget what it is, for housing rehab. But I think in the 18 years I've been here, we probably put 5,000 of it towards actual housing rehab
Right.
because people don't qualify that actually live in town to do it, to use it.
are too high.
Right. So we can say, that we'll offer 50,000 of it, make 50,000 available more if it's actually, if there's an actual market for it and see what happens. But I'll get the actual procedures from
So,
the,
The way that would actually work, let's just say for sake of argument that to give it enough of a window to be used, we said, okay, we're gonna allocate 50,000 of our 2022 allotment to that program. There'll be 5 years then for that money to be spent before it expires.
right,
And then we would see what actually gets spent about that, just like we have this experiment for 2018. If 4 years later, none of it was spent,
Right.
we would come back to like we did today and say, now we spend it on something
we'd
else.
even have the opportunity 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to come back. I mean, at any time, each year, the county will come and give us an update on what is expiring, where we stand, what the numbers are, and then give us a chance to make changes at that point.
Is it available specifically for minorities or is it available?
No, it's not
for
minorities, it's low income,
Low.
seniors or handicapped. But since it's the first time homeowner, I don't know how many seniors are gonna be
Yeah.
buying a home in town that haven't bought a home before.
So you can't be low income and young.
No, you
Oh,
can't.
Okay.
It's either low income or senior
Okay.
or handicapped. Yeah.
But there's a lot, how many people rent to Clerksville? And it's a sizable amount, isn't it? I mean, it's like 30% of the people.
I don't know.
Jesus.
I really do.
I honestly, my gut doesn't say 30%, but
No.
probably 25. My gut, and I've never,
Do we
really
keep a
looked
listing
into it.
of that?
well, we are supposed to have a listing of renters, but there's no teeth in that ordinance, so they don't give us any
And when
information.
it changes, we don't get the updates. It's.
The landlord, we passed an ordinance like 15 years ago that said that they have to,
Maybe we should revisit that too and put some teeth in it. If we're
okay,
gonna
I'll send you
revisit
the
it.
tenant registration as
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
I mean, I think home ownership's a good thing, and if people own their property in Clarkson, the more likely they are to take better care of it.
Right. The more homes that are owner occupied. The.
And who knows how many people rented in the borough?
Mhm.
No, I'm asking that question.
There's
Who
no-
knows?
Right.
Is there any one group, one person, one area,
I
one
don't know.
arena?
I don't think so. And the other thing is, there's times I'll get a phone call, like from the shut-offs. I didn't know this person was renting, I didn't know the house was, being rented.
Right,
I had no idea.
Yeah.
You don't get an indication unless,
There's a couple of landlords that have multiple units
Right.
and therefore we know if they own it, it's a rental. But beyond that,
Ricky
until,
Piazza, for instance.
exactly.
Right.
So, but otherwise, we really don't know, and we don't meet, there's not a reason right now under anything that they have to tell us whether
Right.
they're occupying the property or not.
So there's no way to honestly track how many
No.
rental properties
No.
we have in the borough.
Because as long as they're paying what they're supposed to be paying, we don't genuinely care if they're living there, if someone else is living there, if they're
Right.
renting it.
Right,
generally speaking, yeah.
yeah,
Because after the sewer billing, everything is going to the owner
Right.
of the property, and they are the ultimate responsible people.
Right.
as
Well,
opposed
with
to
this new,
renters.
with the new situation with the garbage now, that'll probably change too.
yeah.
Maybe we can get an accurate idea.
Maybe.
Well, that's an issue again, where we're gonna have to decide, do we want to
Oh,
build the
sure.
tenants or the people that are living there? Or do we want to build the people that own the property? And with sewer, the council opted to build the owner of the property and
Yeah.
let them worry about if they want
Right.
to
Right.
pass that cost on to the tenant.
Exactly, yeah.
But if we don't get the money, we're putting a lien against the property and that affects the property owner, not the tenant. Therefore,
Yeah.
that's why it was chosen to do what we did.
I'd like to suggest that we get some more information in terms of how this program
I'll be
would,
happy to.
how much would, just out of curiosity, like how much would a typical award be? So that we knew if we allocated some amount of money, how many people might we serve with that? It'd be helpful to make a decision.
Okay,
Mhm.
I'll reach out to Peggy.
Actually, I think income guidelines too, like how much would it be?
I'll buy it.
You got it.
Like more parameters for it.
Right.
And would they be coming directly to us requesting it, or would she be?
No, it goes through the county.
Okay,
They would notify us to the activity, but otherwise the county would handle the whole thing. We wouldn't have to be involved.
It would probably come in as a John Doe rather than the name of the person. They would just say that there is a individual moving in who would like.
No, we would know if
assistance.
if they're gonna own the property, then then it's public information,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Okay. All right.
Okay, and next is the letter of support to the state county reps regarding the EMS.
I took action on my own and I'm just thinking that it wouldn't hurt. We're sending the letter to the reps about, the one that we just got signed about the LNG, the liquefied natural gas. I thought after that presentation by, the fire company last week, I did a little research and when I found out that the cost of a new ladder truck is millions, literally millions of dollars.
Close to 2.5.
How do you buy one? Then the article went on to say that, so a lot of the communities opt to rehab. A rehab is $250,000. So like right off the bat, then, Mike Lucas was saying, if they want to volunteer before they can even put on the uniform, they have to have certifications. Well, the certifications
Numerous
takes a period, right,
certifications.
takes a period of time and it could cost up to $8,000. And that is money that if the fire company doesn't pay, the individual has to pay.
Yep.
And the fire company, where are they going to get that money from? So the more I read, the scarier it got. So I took it upon myself to draft a letter to our federal representatives, basically just notifying them of what we've learned and asking for them to find ways to assist these the volunteer fire companies before we lose them. Because if the volunteer fire company closed and we had to do we would have to do a paid fire company. Your taxes would double.
Oh, every bit of,
Yeah,
Please.
yeah.
maybe even triple.
Right. And I don't think people recognize that. And so I thought, starting with the federal officials, let's
Yep.
just notify them. So if you guys are okay with that, and I did email out the letter, I'd like to get a motion to allow Jerry to sign it. As
I'll make that a
representative.
motion.
I'll second.
We give Jerry the permission to sign the letter.
Do you think you might be able to draft one for Harrisburg too, for the state people?
I can take the same letter and change it to the state, yes,
Yep.
no problem. So then,
That
Jerry, I
is-
have the one and I'll get you the other one
That
next
is
time. I
state
see you.
Governor Shapiro, that's
Okay.
information.
Thank you.
I'm sorry,
I think Governor Shapiro's on that. letter. Is he copied on that letter?
yes, I did add Governor Shapiro, but you're right, the state reps as well should be included.
So maybe the state senator,
That was
or
good
state
letter.
representative. But it's great.
Also,
Thank you.
Virginia, at the COG meeting last week, South Abington, their students through the Abington School are getting their fire training there so that after a certain age, after 18, I guess, then they can actually be
Active.
an actual. And I said, why can't our fire company do that too?
I'm not aware of that, Jerry,
Yeah.
of what program they're doing. I
Yeah.
know we have junior firefighters, the same as South Abington does.
Yeah,
Yeah, they cannot go into a burning building. However, if there's a structured fire, they can be on the end of the hose line outside the building, but they're
sure.
not able to go in the building.
and can they
And
get training at the high
I-
school
I'm
too?
not aware of that, Jerry. This is the first
That's
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
Okay.
something maybe to check into,
Yeah,
because
okay.
South Abington said
Yeah.
that their junior fire,
Okay,
and then, of course, after 18, then they become.
yeah, then
full-fledged.
they're a regular
Yeah,
firefighter.
so
Okay.
that's something maybe to look
Yeah.
into, Dave.
And
Yeah.
along with what you were saying about the turnout here. Now they've found that a lot of the turnout here that fire companies have previously purchased is also cancer causing because of the materials that they're made out of. So now they're faced with possibly needing to go out and secure loans to re-outfit the entire fire department with some kind of a different turnout gear, but they haven't discovered how to make a turnout gear that is going to be non-carcinogenic,
And still provide good safety.
Yeah.
still provide the safety. Yeah,
Maybe if some of the schools have career day, that might be a good opportunity to
yeah.
approach it.
Yeah.
I'll check into that though. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Jerry. Yeah, I will definitely check.
I'll give you the contact information
Yeah.
for Superintendent Snyder, if you
Okay.
like.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I
Yeah.
have one
And we need to vote on the motion too.
Yes,
and second the motion.
yeah, we got the
Okay,
first
okay,
and the second.
Question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, favors have it.
Thank you.
Thank you for that too, Virginia. Very good.
Virginia, I had a quick question. Was it South Abington or the middle school that was requesting an officer on site?
It was the middle school. It was the school district asking for officer in this.
Did we
in the-
formally say no? Are
We-
still-
we
'cause I know the
actually-
school year is coming to an end.
We met, the finance committee met on that yesterday, the day before, I don't remember.
Right,
And we did communicate back that we can't support that at this time. Eventually, Chief Yarns communicated that back. It's too, I think our feeling was, administratively to take on a part-timer was not ideal, and the potential cost risk to us of taking on a full-timer also not ideal, so it's just not really practical for us.
Can we assist with getting someone maybe from the police, like the sheriff's department, or facilitate?
no,
that at
actually,
all, or
the
no?
person that had applied for the position is a retired state trooper.
Oh, okay,
And
great.
he has already applied at the school. And I did speak with him and let him know that we did discuss it, and that because he would be working 180 days in the school year, he's gonna get in touch with the superintendent and let him know that the reason that they wanted to come to us was because of the insurance liability, but the liability lays with the school district no matter what. So,
And there is precedent, we were just talking today,
Yeah.
Wyoming Valley West has, retired state police officers as their resource officers.
And who's responsible for compensating?
The school,
School is.
they become employees of the school district.
Totally. And that, okay.
Right,
Totally.
and there is, based on some information that was provided to us today from Cody with Senator Fetterman's office.
right,
Act 67, the federal Act 67 gives this the school the ability to give the authority to carry guns to qualified individuals such as retired police officers. So they can do this. Their liability isn't going to change if they pass it off to us. They can carry a gun, so, and we do have precedent out there.
They could probably work for the school district as a contract employee too.
Mhm.
And you said something about Act 31 or
He said 31. I looked it up. It's
31?
67.
It's 67.
Yeah,
Okay.
he said he
I was
wasn't
gonna
sure about
ask
the
you, is it
number.
Same one?
Yeah.
So it looks like they will be getting an officer.
oh.
Well, that's up to them. It's
Yeah.
not gonna be.
It's out of our-
Do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not our hands.
They have the grant money to do it and.
Okay.
they have the grant money.
Follow up.
I appreciate you guys meeting with them because
Oh,
that is
yeah,
sadly
we
needed.
had a lot of very good information.
Thank you.
So that was. Good.
Along that line, I mean, this isn't something that just came up. The school district knew about this a long time ago. When they first started with South Abington at the high school, I think they were remiss not addressing all the schools to have an officer available, because it certainly would have eliminated a lot of problems going down the line. They could have had something throughout the county where they had people who, as this gentleman who approached us is retired, that they could have had a little grouping of their own individuals who were all retired, get together and just police the local schools. I mean, that certainly would have created a much easier scenario than what we're up against now, where we have to say, oh, well, no, we don't want to do it because it's not, it's not feasible for us to do. And then if the word gets out, well, it's kind of like a bad light on us, but it's not really a bad light on us because we didn't go to the high school and that's only a mile and a half away. We're going to go 3 or 4 or 5 miles to Newton to have coverage for the school. I think that's a little bit much too. So I think if anything, I know out of state, it's sheriff's deputies or they come from the local sheriff's office that do the patrolling, the local police departments. Only on rare occasions do they have it. It's usually you'll see a deputy sheriff's car in front of the school. And they provide the coverage, so.
I feel differently. I think if we were in the position to help, I would have gladly wanted to step up and help, but understandably, we're not.
Right,
That's my thoughts on it.
and it's a position that will be filled
Right,
with the retired state
it's
trooper,
nice.
which other school districts have, so.
If our
Like, if we had the
situation
staffing,
changes and
we
theirs
would probably
changes,
do it.
we might consider this again in the future.
Right,
Right.
Unfortunately,
We
it's
just don't have
now
the
that it's not
staffing.
feasible.
and
Mhm.
understand.
Yeah, so. Falls out of our court now, that's good. Okay, under new business, the meter suspension,
Right, the ABPA is gonna have downtown sidewalk sales the 16th and the 17th. Yes, Friday, the 16th and Saturday, the 17th. They've asked that we suspend the parking meters for those 2 days.
I'll
This
make
is something we do.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to suspend the meters.
I'll second that.
thank you, on the question, all in favors?
Aye.
All opposed, favors have it. So
I'm sorry. Can I look this up? I'm too busy getting here.
Dave Jenkins, second.
With the meters suspension, right, council, if they're all aware of the fact that Everything Natural is gonna have the ribbon cutting on the 17th. So any council member that, in our meeting report, that would like to participate in it. It's on Saturday.
I think I might be going away, let me see, Jerry, yeah, if I'm available, sure.
If you can, do it.
What time?
12 o'clock.
The 17th.
Yep. And maybe Virginia could shoot out an email reminder on that, you know, so that nobody will. Disappear. The next item is our pavement cut inspections.
Yeah, when we met last week, we talked to Lou DeMarco about their proposal to act in our behalf with the utility companies. I was asked by you guys to check the references. What I found out is that IWDA is limiting themselves to Lackawanna County because they want to be able to offer a quick response if needed. So they're not even trying to go out to outside of the county, because I said, do you have references in like Luzerne or Wyoming? In Lackawanna County, they gave us the 3 references, Carbondale, Dunmore, and Blakely. I asked them were there other communities that they had, and they said they also had German. So I reached out to all 4 of them. All 4 of them said the same thing. There might have been a bump or 2 along the way getting started, but they found the group to be incredibly communicative. They have not had any negative feedback from any residents, and they've been relatively happy with their performance.
I also spoke to Greg Wolf from Dunmore, who's the borough manager, and Lou had also mentioned Greg Hunt, who is from Dunmore, but he works for UGI. So I spoke to him on the contractor side of it, so I thought that
Right.
would be interesting too,
Yeah.
because the borough obviously was extremely favorable. Dunmore is very happy with it, and in terms of payment, they do front the payment, the borough, but then they're immediately repaid by the contractor, so there's no cost. They do.
Right, it's
Okay.
gonna be, it's
So-
kind of the same scenario that we have with the building permits.
Right.
You know, the contractor bills us, the inspector bills us.
Right.
And we charge the permits out to the residents, and this would be the same thing, the utilities would pay us for the permits. And then they would bill us, IWDA would bill us for their fees. And it's our decision if we were gonna make it the total that they bill is all that the permit's gonna be, or whether or not it's we add a surcharge to it for our processing or something. I don't know.
Right.
I do know with the inspectors, we do have 10%. I don't know. We do get a little bit more than the actual cost of the inspection company. The difference with this is that they're gonna do all the work, then let us know what it costs after the fact, and we've got to go around and collect it. Right now, it's a flat rate for a permit fee. They do the application and they just shoot out the checks. This is gonna be a case where we're gonna have to start billing after the fact and then collecting, which is a little bit of a hassle, but it is definitely gonna improve the quality of the work.
We
You
have
didn't-
no numbers discussed here. Have they discussed any numbers as far as how much their fees are going to be or anything like that?
No,
I
they,
didn't discuss numbers. That's when I spoke to Greg Hunt, who's one of the supervisors in UGI, because his name was mentioned by her. And he didn't have complaints. He said when they were first starting out, some hiccups with scheduling. But at this point, they're working with them in all these other municipalities.
Mhm.
So UGI obviously would be here.
Mhm.
So it seems like some of those early kinks would be worked out.
Yeah,
He
probably
didn't have an
come by
issue
now.
with it. Obviously, the borough was most favorable to it, but
yeah.
You are responsible for the DPW at the end of the day. Do you find that this is an issue, that these kinds of repairs do cause problems downstream for a DPW?
These repairs, yes, the quality of the repairs very often are substandard, especially when the utilities are using the subcontractor. I do find the water company, we have a good working relationship, so typically they're very responsive in going back and remedying the situation. And UGI has been very, very responsive. This is not not true in the past. In the past year, we've established a relationship with UGI where they're incredibly responsive. Prior to that, no, you got nothing out of them. And I worry about losing my contact and not getting any response.
In your
back.
opinion, is this solving for something that is a pain point?
Yes. I think it's preventing the problem rather than remedying it after the fact. Right now, we're having the potholes and then going in and having them come in and fix it. I'd rather have it done right
Exactly, yeah.
first time.
And how much of an administrative burden is it on you or Jen or whoever takes this on to be chasing these bills down?
I don't know. Until we start doing it, I don't know. But permits, how many utility cut permits do we do? I mean, a couple a week, maybe?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I don't,
It's hard to say. You don't get any, and then like today I had 3.
12 a
Yeah.
month.
I never counted or anything. but-
yeah, that might be reasonable. It's much more active during the summer than during the winter.
The winter, you mostly get emergencies.
Pardon?
The winter, you
Yes.
mostly get emergencies.
The only concern I have is just that, and it's not a concern, it's just the difference is that this is now going to be a variable number for the permit. So they can't, we could actually have them apply and leave a partial payment and then maybe bill them for the difference. I just don't, I'm assuming, and based on the response that I heard from the other 4 municipalities, they're not having a problem collecting the money. I just worried that that would be difficult after the fact.
Sure.
But so far, those 4 communities that was not an issue that they were concerned with.
Good.
It seems to me that if we can proactively solve for something that has been problematic in the past and you don't feel like it is administratively cumbersome to manage
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
then that's a win-win. That being said, I did raise the topic last time about are there other firms that do this? And it sounded like there was one. And the rest of the council obviously has to weigh in on this, but if we said, yes, this is a service we think we need, are we comfortable simply awarding it to the vendor that approached us, or should we ask others? I guess the first question is, does this council think this is a service we need?
I mean, I think Mr. DeMarco gave a very good presentation, but you mentioned Carbondale and Dunmore, and I think those are probably bigger places than us. So I mean, I don't know how much.
But Carbondale, Dunmore, German and
Blakely.
Blakely. So German and Blakely are probably more our size. So it runs the gamut.
And
We are as far south in the county as they would be dealing with.
And I
at
guess
this
the
point.
costs that's still a variable at this time or not?
What I would say is if we wanted to, what we would decide tonight is to meet with them and determine costs and what the contract would be and the terms, and then we could vote to decide if we wanted to do it or not. But I think at this point, the question is, do we want to look into it? And at the same time, to answer Josh's question, I don't know of companies that do this, but they're clearly out there. I could do some research and see if I can find others that would do it. Frankly, our engineer might know, Bob Nagley might be able to.
And that's my
recommend
next
something.
question was the
Yeah.
borough engineer. What's his opinion of all of this?
I'll ask him.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with this.
We continue looking at
Yes.
it. Good.
Okay.
So then we need to get Lou DeMarco to sit down with me and I'll get information to you guys.
And I think Nagley's
Sure.
opinion on, do we need this or is this a pain in the butt that we don't need would be very valuable.
You
I
got it?
agree.
And then if we get to that point, I would draft our boroughs ordinance and
Mhm.
look at a couple of the others, just so that
Yeah,
if we want to.
mimic what their ordinance is and then
Right.
it'd be similar.
Thank you.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Bob. On the question, all in favor?
Right?
All opposed? Favors have it. Thank you. And the next item is the APDI, our electric.
Right. I talked to you guys about this last week and it's just that, this is a company that is providing a service at no charge through the PSAB, through the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs. So it's not just somebody saying, hey, we'll do this for free. It's something that's been contracted through the state. But there's no charge to reevaluate us and make a recommendation for a new company since our contract will be expiring in November. So if you guys are okay to make a motion to authorize Jerry to sign the utility usage request form to start the process.
And there's no strings attached. It's just, they'll just look for
No.
ways to save money on electricity for us.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve that.
Thank you, Bob. Do we have a second?
I'll set
Whoever.
whoever, yeah.
Okay, we'll give it to Ronnie. Cat fight down here.
Yeah. We'll
On
wrap
the-
up for
on the question, all in favor? Opposed, favors have it 7-0.
Jerry, before we move off of new business, I think we need to conclude our conversation about how we're funding the increase in tax or in trash fees that we talked about as a finance committee.
Right.
So maybe just to catch everybody up, our discussion point, what's our net increase in cost from last contract, from budgeted amount to what this
For the
will cost us
remaining
for the rest of the year?
Months of this year, it's gonna be $118,000 more than we had budgeted to have the trash. For the new contract with the trash.
And so Virginia ran some numbers to determine, basically our decision point first is, do we cover that out of the taxes? Eating the additional cost over the rest of 2023, or do we start the billing however we're going to bill for September 1st? And I think given our current financial position, which projects us to be several $100,000 ahead of where we thought we would be, we felt pretty comfortable that we can cover that out of our general fund and look to start billing for January 1st, however we're going to do that, which also buys us more time to make that informed decision.
And is it $118,000 more over the course of 7 years or every?
No.
year?
That's the remaining.
That's for the 4 months this year.
Over what-
The point is that. Right. So the new contract starts September 1st. Are we going to have the residents start paying effective September 1st? Or are we going to wait? Because we already budgeted to pay Mascaro through December, but we budgeted less than what the new contract is. The difference for the last 4 months is 118,000. My recommendation to the finance committee was that we are fiscally strong right now. And I think we have the wiggle room to cover that 118,000 and hold off on billing residents until the new year, giving us more time to make the appropriate decisions and do the appropriate research to make sure that we're really ready to run with this when we do start. And since we already had money put aside for to pay for the trash, it seemed self-serving to bill the residents for the last 4 months when we already got tax money from them to pay.
Right.
So
I will make a motion that we adjust our 2023 budget to cover the increased expense of the trash for that 4-month period and not consider beginning to bill residents until 2024.
I'll second that.
Okay, on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Very good, thank you, Josh.
And then the next meeting will start on decisions of how to go about it. And
right,
research.
I've presented a list of questions to the finance committee. We're going to try to arrange a meeting next week to start just thinking these things through and deciding what's going to be the best recommendation. And then, so hopefully at the work session, they'll have some information to bring back to you guys to start thinking about.
Sure.
But rather than all 7 of us sitting down and trying to hash it out, it'll be a little bit more controlled with the group.
Okay. Okay, very good. Our solicitors report, do we have anything to?
I do not, other than I will pull together a memorandum for everybody, the QOLs and the nuisance in surrounding boroughs and just where we stand compared to that.
Good.
For the fines.
Okay. Very good, thank you. No correspondence?
Nope.
And does any council members have any questions that they would like to address?
Running.
Well, then in that case, I motion that we adjourn.
Oh,
Oh, wait.
No, Jerry's got to read off the executive session.
I know, that's.
Done, Dave.
Okay.
Not that I'm rushing it.
Prior, we had a meeting May 31st for our 2023 contracts,
Executive session for contracts on the 31st.
and during and subsequently, none. So,
Go, Ronnie.
Ronnie,
I motion that we adjourn.
none.
Motion that we adjourn.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Well,